Hello and welcome to the first live session for week 3. And in this week, we are going to talk about coding languages used for web development, introduction to HTML, introduction to CSS, writing code for the first web page, and visiting that web page in a web browser. So in this session, the task is to create a first web page by writing the code. The first activity for the week is to go through the lesson. Next, you will see there are two options for code editor. You can choose either of these. I would prefer to go with Visual Studio because that is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux operating system. The other option is Notepad++, but that is only available for Windows. So I will be using Visual Studio. Then there are two live sessions this week. These are the 3 resources on SlideShare. We will check out 2 of these. In this session, we will check out about HTML. For CSS, we will see it tomorrow. Next is the exercise and resources. Here, as you can see, there is a folder called Coding Resources. This folder contains the sample code for the various tasks or exercises, which you can download and use as an example. This is only for your help. Next, there are 5 URLs. These are for the YouTube video tutorials that you can go through and check how to download and install Visual Studio Code Editor, how to write code in HTML, and create various elements in a web page. Then there are 2 discussion forums. 2 discussion forums are for discussion about coding for the internet and web page development. The third discussion forum is for sharing the code for the web page that you will be writing. So if you have written the code, you need to share that file, the HTML file, in this discussion forum. We will just see how to do that. And then there are links for supplementary reading as additional resources. Now coming to the topic for the week, coding languages of web development. Web development basically involves client-side and server-side programming. Here we will be talking about client-side programming and what code runs on the client's web browser. We will be looking into that because that is the website layout that we deal with. The client-side program is run on client's machine and it is interpreted by the web browser. It is written in HTML and various other languages, but HTML is the primary language, that is hypertext markup language. It is interpreted line by line by the web browser. There is a pre-built interpreter in every web browser that reads the code written in HTML and displays the output on the web page. HTML does not show error if the code is wrong it won't execute, but it will not show you an error. The HTML document is divided into two sections, head and body section. It is used for creating the structure of the web page. What is the structure is, where do you define the menu bar, the text content, paragraph, table, images, and various other elements that you want on your web page. So that is the structure. How do you want the layout to be? That is defined using HTML. It is a markup language which is written within tags. There are two types of tags, paired and unpaired tags. For example, here we have HTML parent tag. This is a paired tag. So a paired tag is that you write HTML, that is the name of the tag. Then you write the content, and then you close the tag with a forward slash within the markup. So this is an opening and closing tag. Whereas an unpaired tag does not has an opening or closing tag, there is only one tag. This is a break tag which is used to give a line break. So for that we use BR. Head section. As I said, the HTML document is divided into two sections, head and body. The head section contains additional information about the web page. It contains the title, which is displayed in the title bar. So where is the title bar? Is on the top. Where you see the title of the web page, that is the title bar. And you can define the title of the web page within the title tag. And the head section also contains the link to any external document that the HTML document has to relate to. Next, we have the body section. The body section contains the content that is to be displayed on the web page. That is, the basic content that you see is written in the body section. What is the flow of HTML code is? First tag is the doc type. That is the document information. You have to tell the web browser that this is an HTML document. So we use a tag for that. Next is the HTML tag, that is the parent tag, within which we have the head tag and the body tag for the respective sections. We will see this practically in a while. So here is the basic structure. First, as you can see, this is the doc type tag. This is basically to tell the web browser that this piece of code is written in HTML. The document type is HTML. Then we have the HTML tag. This is the parent tag because every other tag will come within the opening and closing HTML tag. Within this, we have the head tag. The head opening and closing defines the head section. Then we have the body tag. Opening and closing body tag defines the body section. Within the head section, we have the title tag, which specifies the page title. Within the body tag, we have the page content. So here are a few HTML tags that you can use in the content. These are heading tags. They start from H1 to H6. Then is the anchor tag. This is the most important tag, because this tag helps to create the link, the hyperlink. Using the anchor tag, we define the content by clicking on which you will be redirected to the other web page. So that link is created using the href tag. Then we have the bold tag, B opening and closing, I for italics. This is for formatting the font. We have the P tag, paragraph tag, opening and closing. The content goes within the opening and closing tag. Then we have the image tag, image source equal to file name. That is the file name of the image on your system. Next is the BR tag, that is the break tag. And last is the strong tag, which is similar to bold. It is used to emphasize a piece of content. Next is the meta information. This is very important from the point of view of website administration, because meta information is not displayed to the client. That is, it will not form the part of client information on the web page. But this information is used by the search engine to check the web page. The information is basically when you will upgrade your WordPress website properly, and you will use an SEO plugin, that is search engine optimization plugin, then you will only have to give the values for description, keyword. Author is automatically taken by WordPress depending on the user who has written the document. Then we need to provide the value only. Coding is done by the plugin or the theme that you will use. But the information is basically used by search engines to understand and verify the page content. That is, suppose you have written the description, and within description you have written that you're talking about online education on this specific web page. Then the search engine will also check the excerpt from the content of that page. And if they find the description that you specified similar to the excerpt, then it is verified. If they find that the description is something different and the content is related to shopping, it is nowhere related to teaching, then that is irrelevant description. Next, we will look at HTML form. Where do you find HTML forms? Is whenever you register on our website, you fill in a form, or you want to contact the administrator, or make an inquiry through an inquiry form, make a payment on the payment gateway, or even if you were to register for the newsletter. So when you register for the newsletter, it's primarily two fields, that is the name and the email ID. But that also forms a HTML form. So what are the various elements that you can use within the form? These are broadly speaking the important elements. There are other elements also, but I'm just checking out only the important ones. And that includes the label, input box, email, radio button, checkboxes, drop-down menu, and a submit button that is used to submit the information that you have entered on the form. This is the week 3. For week 3, the task is to create the first web page. And on this web page, as I said, you will have the lesson for week 3. Then you have two options for the code editor. You can go to Visual Studio link and download and install the code editor. How to do that is defined in this specific resource, how to use Visual Studio Code Editor. If you check out this video, you will be able to download and install Visual Studio Code Editor on your system for coding. Then are the presentation resources. These are 3 resources. We will check out 2 of these today. Languages of the internet. We are looking at client-side programming. It is executed on the client machine. It is used to interact with the user. The various languages that are used include HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, and XML. The structure of the web page is created through HTML, that is hypertext markup language, and it has 2 sections as we already discussed. The designing of the web page is done through CSS, that is cascading style sheet. It is used for stylizing the layout, including the font, color, spacing, and also device orientation. So depending on the aspect ratio of the device screen, that is whether it is a laptop or a tablet or a mobile device, a smartphone, the size of the screen differs, and how does the web page accommodate and adjust to the screen size is done through CSS. Next is the web page. The code is interpreted line by line by the interpreter in the web browser. And the CSS code can either be embedded within the HTML file or it can be linked by an external CSS file. The code is specified in HTML file, is executed, and the CSS code is, if it is an external file, it will be linked and the formatting will be made to the HTML elements. What are the steps for writing the HTML and CSS code is? Write the structure for the web page using HTML, then create the design using CSS and rethink the layout and amend the layout and the design as required. Next, you have to create a separate folder for saving the files. So save the HTML, CSS, and media files, whatever images you want to use within the web page, in the same folder. How do we link a CSS file as an external document? That we will see tomorrow. These are a few editors available. So Scratchpad is an online editor. You can use that. For offline editor, you can use Notepad for Windows and Brackets for Mac, or else Visual Studio Code Editor, which is available for Mac, Windows, and Linux operating systems. All of these are freeware, open source, so you can just download and install on your system and start coding. What is JavaScript? JavaScript is also client-side scripting, and the code is written as plain script, which is executed on the client's machine. Again, it is executed by the web browser on the client machine. We will check out JavaScript in next week. XML is an extensible markup language. It defines set of rules for format of document and is used to store and transport data. In XML, you can define your own tags. So this is another type of programming used for web development. Then is PHP, Hypertext Preprocessor. It is an open source general purpose scripting language, which is basically used for writing the server-side programming, but it is written within the HTML code. whereas executed on the server. Why are these languages important for you is because tomorrow when you will be working as a website administrator, you might come across these programming languages. So just for your knowledge that these are the various popularly used languages. There are host of other programming languages which are also used, but these are popularly used languages for web development. Now, HTML, you can go through this resource because we've already discussed about HTML. We will see it practically now. Before that, here is the coding resources. That is this coding resources. When you go to the course under week 3, exercises and resources, you will see coding resources. When you open this, here you will see a folder. This folder contains 2 subfolders. One is buttons and one is user form. But I would suggest that you go through these after tomorrow's session because these two contain the code for HTML and CSS together. Today we are only looking at HTML, so we'll check this out tomorrow. Now here is the form for code for the web page. Here are the 3 forms. The third form is code for the web page. And this form here is what you need to do. You have to write 3 programs, 3 HTML files. The first HTML file would be a simple web page that you can create in HTML. That is one. The second HTML file will be to create a form with buttons. And the third exercise is to create an HTML form with buttons and stylize it using CSS. Okay. So the form that you create in the second exercise, you can use the same HTML form and add CSS to it for the third exercise. Okay. And what you need to do is add a new discussion topic under your name. In the subject, you can write the code that you are submitting. That is exercise 1, 2, or 3. Write the message and attach the file, the HTML or the CSS file that you will be creating. You have to attach that here and post it to the form. So when you're done with the first exercise, you can do that. Then add a reply to your own discussion and add the file for the second exercise. Again, as a reply to your own discussion, add the files for the third exercise. So stick to only one discussion topic under your name, and you can add the files as you complete the specific exercises to the same discussion topic. Now, let us see how to write an HTML code. I will just share the Visual Studio Code editor and see how do we write the code in HTML. So when you open Visual Studio Code editor, here is what you see. If you want, you can zoom in and zoom out through view, appearance, and zoom in. Okay, that's one thing. So the first thing that you need to do is, as soon as you open a new file, you will see Untitled 1. So the first thing is go to File, Save As, write the file name home.html or index.html, whatever you want it to be as. Let's say this is home1.html and save. Okay, so now you see the file name is home1.html. Now here what you need to do is write the exclamation mark and press enter. Just by doing this, you will see the structure for the HTML page has been created for you, where the doc type is mentioned, the HTML parent tag, head section, and body section is created already. Just by typing the exclamation mark and hitting enter. Now here you see the title tag. Within the title tag, you can set the title, home page, and in the body section, you can write the content that you want to display. And then Control S to save. And let us go and check. So now, if you can see, this is the
Yes,
home
yes.
page.
Now I can see it.
Yeah.
Which one did you use to write the code?
Sorry.
Which you said that we had to use a notepad or something,
Visual
some.
Studio. Visual Studio Code Editor.
Oh, so okay.
Okay. So I have specified that link here. You can just go into the week 3 and you will see Code Editor Visual Studio. When you click on this,
Right.
this is a Microsoft product. So you will be redirected to the website for the Visual Studio Code Editor, and then you can just click on download and then specify if you want it for Mac or Windows. And so suppose I'm using Windows, you go to Windows. And here it is, it has started downloading. Okay, so once it completes the download, then you just have to go to the exe file and install it on your system. Here is a tutorial for that, how to use Visual Studio Code Editor. So you can check this out. And I've explained everything there, how to download and install and start using it.
Okay.
And so here is the home page that we've created. Now let's go back to the code. Now this is a simple web page with a title and some content in the body. Let us create a form right now. What is a form? I've already shared. You must have seen a form when you register on a website or for an email ID on Gmail or any other platform. So you would have seen forms. Now we'll just create one of that. It begins with the tag form. The best part about this Visual Studio Code Editor is that when you start writing a tag, you will see the possible options. And you can just select that, close the tag, and you will get the closing tag also. Okay, form name equal to anything. User registration. Next, the first thing that we need to write is a label. What is a label? Is the text that you see Label ID is equal to N1, anything. The value that you write within the quotes can be anything that you want. So like the name, user registration. Now, whatever I've written within the double quotes, that can differ. That is the value that you are giving. So here user registration or just registration or form 1 or whatever name you want to give to the form, you can write that. Label is the syntax for writing a label. ID, we are giving it an ID for recognizing the label. N1 or name or first name or whatever value you want to give, that you can specify on your own. Close, and you get the closing label tag. Within this, you have to write the label content. So I want this to be username. All right. Next is the input tag. Input type equal to text. Again, we give it an ID. ID equal to name1. Close. Input does not has a closing tag. And let's see. We'll save this. Go back and check. Refresh. Here it is. The label username. Okay. And the input box that we created. So if you will see a form, this is how you see it, that there is some text, that is the label, and then there is a box in which you can enter the value. Right?
Right.
So we'll check out some more elements of the form. Copy, paste. Label ID is email. Suppose I want an email. And you write the content email. Type email. ID E1. And I also want a break between these lines. Two line breaks. Next, let's say a radio button. So Control C, the label, the syntax for the label remains the same. Label tag, ID. The value for ID will be different for every element. N1 was the ID for username. EM was for email. Now we have, let's say R1, and we want to take the gender of the teacher, okay, or the student. So input type equal to radio, name equal to gender, value equal to female, slash input. Copy and paste. You don't have to worry about all of this. I know this is too much of coding for somebody who does not know it, but just copy the code from the resources that I have shared. Okay, just save it on your system and play around with it. Change the values and see what happens. Because why I am sharing this is when you will be working with the plugins tomorrow, you will come across certain aspects where you probably would want to understand what is going on. Okay, when you will add forms on your website, so you will probably want to know what is a radio button, how is it working. So this is just for an understanding. Forget about the coding part, forget about the syntax and how to write the code. Just try and understand what is happening in the form. When that will happen when you save it on your system and change and work with the code. Okay, so don't worry about writing the entire piece of code. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's save this and go back and check. All right, so here we see hello world, then break, username, the input box, email, input box, and this is the radio button. What is a radio button? You can select only one of the two options, either
Mhm.
female or male. That is a radio button. Okay. Next, we will write a checkbox. Hobbies, because hobbies can be more than one. So type equal to checkbox. Name equal to hobbies. Traveling or music. You can add as many hobbies if you want. Reading. Okay. Next, we have label. Let's say this is a choice. Daytime. And select ID equal to S1. Your favorite daytime. Option value equal to morning. Evening. Night. And the last thing that we need to check out is the button. That's about it. Control S. Go back to the browser. Refresh. And here it is. Now you see the username input box, email, gender. You could select one of the two radio buttons. When we select checkboxes, we could select multiple checkboxes, one or more than one. So that is the difference between a radio button and a checkbox. Then we have the, okay, there's something wrong here. Wait. I had misspelled select. Okay. Let's see. Here it is. Now this is a select is used for multiple choice drop down menu. Here you will see the three options that we gave. Okay. And then is the submit button that we have created. Now this is a simple form without any stylizing because styling will be done in CSS. This is about the form. And
Interesting.
yeah, so that is, you know, when you will probably have to take user registration on your website. So you will be obviously using some plugin for adding forms and accepting user registration. But the point is that when you use the form, you need to know what kind of element do you need on your form, right? Whether you need a radio button or a checkbox. For that, you need to know what is the difference and how will that make any difference to the user who will be interacting with you. So it is only for your understanding. You don't have to really bother about the syntax and everything. Just download these resources onto your system and make changes to the content and experiment, visit it in the web browser. There is no harm in doing whatever kind of experimenting you want to do, because it will only give you an understanding of how the code is working. So don't
Right.
worry about the brackets and the quotes and everything. That's not what I expect, because it is not a programming course that we are doing, but these are important for you to only understand. That's what I feel.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that's about this session. And so, yeah, just go through these resources and check out the Visual Studio Code Editor, download and install it, and just practice a little bit with the code.
Okay.
All right, so I'll see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll discuss about CSS, how to use stylizing, because CSS is more important than HTML. Why? Because, if you upgrade and if you have access to the code, you will always see that WordPress will give you an option to write the CSS code. Because within the existing theme layout, there could be minor changes that you want to make to a specific element. That can be done through CSS code. So without altering the layout of the HTML or the structure of the web page through HTML, just by specifying the CSS code, you can make some stylizing changes. So that is like kind of important, even when you will be using some plugins. Even with those plugins, you can make changes. Most of the themes and plugins give you option to add CSS code. So tomorrow's session, we'll check that out.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining, and see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.